Welcome to the Valley Girls, the weekly podcast where we explore everything there is to see, do, try, eat, and experience in New York's Hudson Valley by talking to the makers, the doers, the growers, the creators, and all the unique voices of the Hudson Valley. We're telling the Hudson Valley's story one episode at a time. I'm Jenny Leifer, a lifelong Hudson Valley resident. When I'm not co-hosting Valley Girls, you'll find me talking all about health and wellness, finding the best gluten-free eats in the Hudson Valley, and giving back to the community through volunteerism and service.
And I'm Jennifer Santiago, a Hudson Valley native who has spent the past 20 years living in Texas. I'm currently splitting my time between Texas and the Hudson Valley as I'm in the process of moving back, and I'm so excited to explore and rediscover everything I love about the region, including hiking, history, and the local arts scene.
Welcome to the Valley Girls' 10th episode. To celebrate making it to 10, we've got something extra special for you today.
In episode 2, we talked to Kingston-based pastry chef Enrica Martin. And when we asked her where she likes to hang out in the Hudson Valley, she said, my couch. And she was so real for that. Because as much as we love getting out and exploring everything the region has to offer, Jane Austen was onto something when she wrote, there's nothing like staying at home for real comfort. So we've gathered together some fellow Valley girls who have plenty of ideas for making yourself at home.
We're going to talk to our panel of guests about what makes them happy at home, whether it's working on a craft project, lighting scented candles, using sustainable products for a greener home, or having the perfect snacks for a cozy night in. We are joined by Enrica Martin, Leah Watkins, Angela Basile, Katie Hope, and Jenny Estridge.
So I can't wait for you to get to know all of our guests, but obviously we've got to start with Enrica Martin. She is our muse. So as I said, she's based here in Kingston. She started her pastry career at Ulster Bosie's. She competed in last year's Summer Baking Championship on Food Network, and she makes delicious, I can tell you firsthand, delicious cookies, cakes, scones, and more at her bakery, The Sweet Spot, and also runs pop-ups from her super cute trailer. So Enrica, thank you for inspiring this conversation, and you are our first repeat guest on the podcast. So what have you been up to since we talked to you last?
Just been working on the business. We're planning a launch event for our trailer in the summertime. So getting that started and, trying to get my mental in one piece. So yeah, just kind of been chilling out and working hard.
That's awesome. We are so happy to have you back, Enrica.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much.
Leah Watkins, you're welcome. Leah Watkins is the founder and owner of Folk Refillery and Supply, which we've mentioned briefly in a couple of episodes already. Leah is also fairly new to the Hudson Valley. Actually, I live not too far from where Folk Refillery is going to be in Uptown Kingston, and I get so excited every time I walk down North Front Street and I see it. I can't wait for it to be open. Leah, please tell us how you got here, when we can look forward to coming into your shop, and what the concept of a refillery is.
Well, going back to when I got here, I moved here from Seattle almost a year ago. It was in May, so coming on a year. Fell in love with Kingston. Felt like there was a little gap in needing refilleries here, so I thought I could fill that gap and fill that need. You can look forward to Folk being open. I'm going to put this out into the ether now, May 18th, soft launch.
Yeah, that's good.
We're gonna, have limited hours and days, and then just kind of feel it out, tweak, what needs to get tweaked, and then we'll do a big grand opening. Oh, and then what a refillery is, you bring your own containers to fill with all sorts of things, like your pantry staples, home cleaning supplies, personal care items, and then we also have a bunch of things that just can help you live more sustainably and not depend on plastic and
that
packaging.
Is so great. Thank you so much for being here. And May 18th is a wonderful day. That is my mom's birthday, so it's a good day.
And 18 is always
18's a good day.
Number.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Next we have Angela Basile, who is the co-founder of Tess & James, which just makes good smelly stuff. But Tess and James makes small batch, artisanal style, all natural products for baths, body, cosmetics, candles for 10 years now, right? Is this your 10th anniversary this year? That's exciting.
I am. It's actually so funny because I was redoing the labels, and I have on the labels it says established 2014. And I looked at it and I was like, oh my goodness, I've been doing this for 10
That's
years.
a big deal. And so you sort of went from your friend and co-founder saying like, hey, I need to make something that's more effective for my kids' allergies than what I can buy. And then you saying, hey, this is a great product, to this whole business where you've got a whole line of things that we can find in stores all over the Hudson Valley. Also, I will tell you, this is my campfire rollerball. I hoard this. It lives in my desk drawer. And when I need a little mood boost, I put this on. I got this years ago at Birch Body Care. And I love it so much. It is cardamom, orange, and clove. Is that right? Anyway.
That's
so
right.
Congratulations on being in business for 10 years. So tell us a little bit more about how Tess and James got started and what you guys are up to.
Tess and James got started out of just a desire as being a new mom, needing to do something creative and also wanting to explore packaging and good smelling things and then testing the waters with what our local area would be willing to support. And we started off with a bath porridge, which was a soak to just for sensitive skin. And we just grew into aromatherapy and bath soaks and soy candles and lip balms. I like to call it all the non-essential feel-good items.
It's fantastic. So thank you so much for being here, Angela.
Thanks for having me.
On episode 5, we talked about wandering along Main Street in Beacon, which is when we happened upon Beetle and Fred. We didn't time it quite right, and unfortunately they were not open, so we couldn't go in that day. But I was there, peering into the windows and got so excited about how cute the shop is and how much my mom and I would love it. She's a huge knitter, the one whose birthday is May 18th, yes. Katie Hope is the owner of Beetle and Fred, which is more than just a knitting shop. Katie, tell us about the shop and the classes you offer.
Oh, yeah, much more. So sort of like your one-stop crafty compendium, I'd say. We have a lot of fabric. Right now, we're probably at about 60-40 between quilting cotton, which of course can be used for all kinds of things, and garment sewing. People make bags and stuffies and all kinds of things. And then we have yarn for knitting and crochet and a lot of what I think of as like low barrier to entry crafty kits. Lots of embroidery, needle felting, cross stitch, dyeing, natural dyeing, like just, so whether you're sort of a lifer crafter or just want to dip a toe in, we can get you hooked up.
My mom actually is a quilter, and it's not easy to find quilting fabric. There's lots of places online, but I don't think it's easy to find stuff. And she likes to see it and touch it and make sure it's the kind of fabric she wants. So that's exciting that you have a lot of quilting fabric.
Yep.
So, all right, last but definitely not least, we have Jenny Estridge. So when you have a podcast, you could just think of people that you wish you could be friends with, and you can invite them to be on your podcast, and then they kind of have to be your friend at least for an hour. And so that's definitely the case for me with Jenny, because not only is she super cool, but she's the social media manager for my beloved Adams Farraker Farms. Which is honestly, I love Adams more than a person probably should love a grocery store, but I do. And this is not sponsored, although obviously Adams, if you want to sponsor us, let's talk. But I just genuinely love Adams that much. So, the heart wants what it wants. But so Jenny, you are really good at your job. I love following all of the content that you put out on Adams social media. So are you a Hudson Valley local, and how did you land a gig at Adams?
Gosh, what a great question, because it was a little bit of a roller coaster getting to Adams, but I am a Hudson Valley local girl. I was born in Middletown, where I am right now, but lived in Warwick, left for a while, thought, when you grow up here, you have to leave it. I feel most, like, I feel like, you just need to like, I did the city thing. I did, I lived in the South for a while, and my heart just brought me back here where, I'm getting my young adult life in order. But yeah, getting to Adams, I was actually an animator before I was a social media manager. I worked for a few different agencies in the city, it was a great time. But during the weirdness of the pandemic and just tech booms and all that, I lost my job. One day I was strolling the new Adams here in Middletown, just having a moment of just like, wow, this is like my happy place. I love coming here. Food shopping in general, especially in the city, was just like an anxious thing because it's crowded. You're trying to get in and out real quick. And then coming back, I went to the typical Hannaford shop, right? But they kind of feel cold and sterile just to me. And like, I get overwhelmed easily. So when the Adams in Middletown opened, I was like, happy place. And they got a lot of stuff. And I had just reached out to a friend whose mom is my boss now. And I was like, hey, is there any openings creatively or anything? He's like, I don't know about creative, but they are looking for a social media manager. And it was kind of a really fast process from there. I got the job the same day I interviewed. I started a week later. I've only been with the team since October, and we've just grown, and I've gotten to do a lot of cool stuff and meet a lot of cool people.
I love that. That's a win for everybody because you do a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great story, but also such an Adam story. We know the family, and they're just such wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. They really are truly a local family business. Actually, my son used to work for them in high school. And I have so many other friends who've worked for them as well. And they really are truly just a wonderful business, wonderful family, so different. And I just also just have to say how much I relate to that story so much, other than moving south. That I did not do. But the whole growing up here, for me, it was Hurley. I grew up in Hurley, went to Kingston schools, and then it was like growing up here. It's like, can't wait to get out of here. I got to get out of this small area. I got to get out. And I did. And I went to college and I moved downstate and that whole thing. And then it was like becoming a young adult, in my 20s. I was like, wow, I miss it. I didn't appreciate it up here when I was growing up. And now it's like, this is the only place I want to be. So it is so different as an adult. So it's very relatable. And I'm sure we're not the only ones. There's a lot of people who can relate to that.
My husband always says if you told him that he would move back to Dutchess County, he would have laughed in your face.
Yeah,
it's true. And just being able to make content for the community that I grew up in and just like, again, rekindled a love for it. It's very rewarding. It's one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had. So
absolutely. That is so great. So I think we can all agree that the Hudson Valley is a magical place, chock full of great restaurants and hiking trails and live music venues, historical sites. We can also agree that sometimes all you want to do is hunker down at home, nest for a day or 3. So what does your ideal day at home look like? Jen, I'm going to ask you to go first.
Okay. All right. I can go first. And I have all the sensory components that make a perfect day at home. So first of all, if it's just a fantasy, I'm making it up, it's going to be raining, right? Because when it's beautiful outside, I'm like, I should be in the Vanderbilt Garden, or I should be, I should go take a hike at Minnewaska. So when it's raining and it's a weekend, that feels like you have permission to stay at home. And so in my perfect day, it's raining. Okay. I'm reading. Obviously, anybody who has listened to this podcast for like 30 seconds knows I am all about the books. So I'm going to definitely be at home reading. I'm going to be sipping some tea. We love Harney and Sons, which is a local tea. We recently went out to their tea shop in Millerton. So my tea of the moment is the Winter White Earl Grey. So that's what I'm going to be sipping. My cats will be here, obviously. I'll have blankets, have some nice jazz playing in the background, right? My house will be nice and clean. So my perfect day does not include cleaning my house. It includes my house having been clean already. So, so you have that sense of like, there's nothing looming over me that I have to get up and do. Like I can be perfectly relaxed. So I've got.
So we're moving into magic realism territory
which
here.
Is actually my favorite. Yeah, that's my favorite genre. That. I would probably be reading a magical realism novel. In fact, right now I just started reading The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, and it is everything. I know. I love Lee Bardugo. I was super angry and sad that she didn't come out with the third one in the Alex Stern series when The Familiar came out, because I'm waiting for the follow-up to Ninth House and Hellbent, but I am loving The Familiar so much. It's like it's giving Isabel Allende. It's so good. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing. So I'm reading, listening to some nice music. I'm hanging out with my cats. I am having snacks. And Jenny Estridge, you already know, I am having Don's garlic dip, which is the snack that I long for the most. It is something that you can only get at Adam's. I have tried to recreate it at home with moderate success. Jenny's going to hook us up with the recipe for Don's garlic dip. Okay.
Amazing.
So that's my perfect day. So Enrica, what about you? We know you're on your couch.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
well, just like you, my house is already clean. Everything has to be clean already. But I have to set the vibe. So definitely have to have like my diffuser on with some eucalyptus or sandalwood oil. And then I have to get some music, either like a neo soul or like a bossa nova. I love kind of how that makes me feel. And I'm actually really big on skincare. So, like, an intense skincare routine is like what I will go to first. So, like, the steaming of the face, the microblading, all of that. And then I will wrap up on the couch with a blanket. And I actually been getting into reading a little bit more, but for me, I tend to I'm trying this new thing where I download the audiobook and have the book so I could listen and read at the same time. And I feel like that's like a really effective way for me to like get the story. And yeah, just chill out. Oh, a glass of wine and a charcuterie board. So yeah.
Period.
I love to do the hard copy and the audiobook together. And I have another book recommendation. Just it's all set in the city, and it is by a sci-fi writer called N.K. Jemisin, and it's just a 2-book set. Which the first one is The City We Became, and then the second one is The World We Make. And it's a great one to do on audiobook because there's a ton of different great characters and the narrator does all the different accents and it's really good.
Oh,
so
love that.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, Jenny Estridge. I can see you getting excited when Enrica said skincare routine. So you can go
Sundays in just a full disclaimer, I am living the millennial dream, I guess. And by dream, I mean, whatever. Yeah. I'm living with my parents right now. So Sundays are a big self-care day for me. I try to, as a social media manager, my job is so easy to tap into. Like I'm always kind of on. I try to take Sundays as a serious, do not check the inbox. Do not, just throw the phone away. And I do my skincare. I'm obsessed with things in the Adams gift shop that are just Hudson Valley skincare things, local brands. So I don't know. I'm just so into the skincare and just self-care world, I guess.
So Katie actually has a neighbor on Main Street in Beacon that we met recently too, Jill at Witch Hazel, which is another local business, and she has tons of skincare stuff, and everything is sourced and produced locally. Yeah. And some of it's from the city, but it's all New York producers. So that's another great one. And if Adams doesn't carry Tess and James, you're gonna have to have a talk with Anne.
I will have many talks after this wraps, because it's so true. One of my I don't know if it's my turn, but
it is now.
Again, being that skin and self-care is so important to me. Like I love strolling down Main Street on Beacon. I think there's a bath shop, Beacon Bath, I think it's just called. It's
Beacon Bath and Bubble.
Yep. And I load up, and my perfect day, if I can't have reading with rain, it's raining in my bathtub. Glass of wine. My parents are gone. I'm not hearing any. And I'm probably watching some video essay or TV recap thing on YouTube, just catching up on all the things that I let go during the week because life happens. Yeah. And yeah.
So, all right. So while we're on Main Street in Beacon, Katie, that's where Beetle and Fred is based. So on your perfect day, are you in the shop? Are you at home? Are you knitting? Are you taking a break from crafting?
No, never a break. That is such a good question. I've been trying to think about it. Like in my perfect day, am I at home by myself? My kids are gone. My husband's out. Or am I with people? It's it's a really hard call because when I'm on my own, I don't tend to get very much done. But maybe it starts at home. Maybe it's also like a inclement day, so I don't feel that like I have to get out and do things. Possibly somebody has made a run to Hakan on Main Street, which is our chocolatier, but he also has, I think, some of the best coffee on Main Street. And he's Swedish, so there'll be Swedish pastries. So somebody has brought me a latte and a cardamom bun, something like that. And I'm probably knitting to start off with. Always got something on the needles, usually multiple things on the needles. And then maybe it morphs. Like maybe people come over or maybe I go to the studio. We did a really fun thing just with my employees recently where we all made pants from the same pattern. They're called the Magic Pants by Ann Tilley, who's a independent pattern maker. Has got these awesome pants these are actually great like stay-at-home pants because they look very polished, but they have a secret stretch panel. So they're a great pair of pants to hang out in when you kind of need to go in and out and look. They don't have an elastic back or anything like that, but they do have this like secret comfy pajama thing going on. So maybe, we test a pattern at the studio so we can give better feedback to our customers. And then, one of my favorite things to do in the evening is we have our Thursday night makeout. So that could be replicated on any night. Yeah, I know. Okay. It sounds a little sassy, but that's our Thursday nights at the store, 6 to 9. All are welcome. It is free, and people come. And there's a lot of knitters and crocheters, but also any kind of handwork project. A lot of socializing, a lot of cake. There were 2 different types of cake last Thursday.
That kind of makeout. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
The Jennies were on the same wavelength. I love that.
Yeah.
I was like,
I'm with you now. Okay.
All right. Well, so I'm having Don's garlic dip. I'm having Enrica's brown sugar cookie.
Yes, bring some, please.
I'm going to need those pants with the stretch panel.
Yep.
But also, it's super cool that you have a space because, Enrica has a share space where she does her bakery, and then Angela and her partner make their stuff from home, and then obviously Jenny and I just decided we were podcasters from our houses. But you actually have that brick and mortar, so you can use it not only as a shop but also as a gathering place for people. And so Leah is just about to open her brick and mortar on May 18th. So that's a very cool thing. So Leah, tell us about your perfect day at home.
Perfect day is it's snowing. And that also gives me a reason to just stay cozy inside. I'm on my couch. I've got this nice fluffy wool blanket wrapped around me. I'm looking at books. Books are my favorite. I love to look at pictures. Words are good too, but there's something about just looking at beautiful pictures of homes or gardens. That's my jam. Drinking coffee. I'm obsessed with a nice cup of coffee. And I've got a big old dog named Grimly. He's cuddled next to me.
I love that name.
Oh, he's the sweet. It's his birthday today. He's 3 today.
Aww.
Happy birthday.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Grimly.
He's so cute. Anyway, I can hear my son playing Minecraft in the background. That's I don't know, that's a soothing sound for me. And there's nothing to do and nowhere to be. And that's perfection to me. And then I get to take a big fat nap because I'm
Yes.
I love
Absolutely.
It does not surprise me that you said that you like to look at pictures for inspiration because just like the aesthetic of the Instagram feed for Folk Refillery is so you very clearly have a point of view. Like this is our first time talking to each other, but I feel like I get your aesthetic and I know what to expect when I walk into the shop because just the way that you present the pictures that you post. And we got to know each other really early on. You were one of the first people I reached out to about the podcast because I was just like, I just love what you're putting out there. So
thank you. That means a lot. And I feel like I do put a lot into it. So that's so nice. Thank you.
So, all right. So, Angela, my perfect day at home is in your house because I don't know what's going on behind you, but that fieldstone wall there is gorgeous. Is that a fireplace? So
it's
pretty.
Nice texture, right? So, few things. So, I'm actually sole proprietor of Tess and James. About 8 years ago, my business partner went on to do social work. So I'm sole proprietor, and what was once a business operated out of the home has grown in the past year. We outgrew our home studio, and we are in a big girl studio now outside of the house.
So. That is awesome.
That's exciting. And while I make all the beautiful candles and bath soaks that make your homes more cozy, I am like in a place where I love getting out of my house. And I love being in my studio because that's my creative haven. I have 2 young children that are tornadoes. And so as much as like my magical fantasy house is like super clean, dishes are clean, the laundry's done, that's just not the reality of where we're at. So getting out of the house is, that's my happy space, is being in my creative studio.
I just imagine your studio smells like heaven because that's where you're making all of the good smelling products. And,
when people come to the house, because I still pour candles downstairs because I need to control the temperature in my home. But when people come over, regardless of what the house looks like, I usually hear, "Gosh, your house smells so good." And I'm like, at least it smells good.
That's the trick. You have to be a candle maker and then your house smells amazing no matter what, right?
Right. There you go.
But see, even in your studio, it's like, even though it's not your home space, it's your space, right? Like you may be escaping the tornado chaotic, mother of young children and dishes in the sink, but like it's still like your cozy space, like your getaway for your own space.
Yeah, I also feel like it is like when I take myself seriously, right? And so for me to get out of the house and stop getting distracted with everything else that I should be doing, it's like I'm doing my 9 to 5 as best as possible, with the exception of leaving at 3 to go coach soccer. I'm like taking myself seriously by taking myself out of my house and my space where like that's like my maker space.
No, that makes sense. That's great.
I'm very envious. That's our goal one day, to have like a podcasting studio space.
We're going to do it. Yeah. We're going to do it. We're getting there.
It's not, it wasn't easy. I was always like, well, maybe next year, because it's like it's like another mortgage essentially. And so this year I was like, okay.
Well, I keep telling my husband he's got a shed out back. He's going to make us a she shed and turn it into our studio out back there.
She sheds are where it's at.
And then you guys could all just come out. That could be our, everyone just come on over. We're going to hang out, have snacks, some wine, some knitting.
Some clams.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to go last, but I have to say I like I'm not just stealing from each of you, but I can relate to a little bit of each of your perfect days at home. But Leah, there was a couple of things that you said that definitely for me. So I like it to be not a super hot day, maybe rainy, but it's got to be not very nice outside, like you said, Jenna. I want to not feel guilty for staying home all day, but be able to like snuggle up under a nice, warm, heavy blanket. But the big thing for me is something that you said, Leah. It was not have anywhere to go, not have anywhere I'm supposed to be. Because sure, we can all just choose to have a self-care day. We can all just choose to have a day at home, but whether it's busy moms, busy business schedules, busy family obligations or community obligations, it's so nice when I can look at my calendar, look at my social obligations and see nothing on the schedule. And, I have an 11-year-old stepson. My 2 older ones are in college. And so it's so strange. Like I went through the whole sports and dance and this and that and driving and the mom taxi thing. And it's I never, I couldn't even imagine this moment where we don't have a million places to be. So I have to say, as much as I miss it, I miss the idea of, yes, the sound of, well, I have my stepson playing Fortnite in the background. But sure, I miss the activity. I miss the chaos in some level. I miss being on the soccer sidelines on the weekends. But I love having nothing to do some days. So that's my first thing I will say is having nothing to do. A little bit of reading, but I also love movies. I am a sucker for a good movie or like a limited series where, see, this is the thing for me also. People feel like they have to be guilty if they like binge like a marathon of movies, right? Like, oh my God, I was so lazy. I sat on the couch and watched hours of movies. But we all do the same thing when we binge watch a show, right? Like we'll sit there and just keep hitting next episode, next episode. So like I love like binge watching a show or a limited series or something that I've been wanting to watch that I don't have the time to keep up with. So that for me is a perfect thing. Obviously, yes, of course, snacks and tea is going to be a big part of my day. For me, it's going to be the Harney and Sons Dragon Pearl Jasmine. That's going to be my tea of choice. I mean, I love all teas, but that's definitely going to be my comfort tea. And other self-care things for sure, whether it's like self-care, like cosmetically or taking a bath or whatever it is, it's going to be some form of self-care. And if I do feel like exerting any energy at all, that would go into some kind of gluten-free baking. That's what I would do for my energy that I would put out there would be some kind of gluten-free baking. So yeah, that would be my perfect day.
So you make a great point because we are talking to a bunch of boss women right here on this podcast right now. Everybody's got careers and businesses and doing creative stuff, but and I love that. And we're hustling too to try to get a podcast going, but I am so not about glamorizing the hustle culture. And so the fact that everybody kind of has this concept of a day at home with nothing to do and doing skincare and reading books and not feeling guilty about it, that is super, super important. Also, so, Jenny said she'd do some baking. So Enrica, obviously baking is your life and your career, but baking for me is very zen and relaxing. And then Angela, you're coming up with scents, you're pouring candles. And Katie, your business is all about doing crafting, whether it's needle felting or knitting or crocheting or whatever.
Oh, I should have added crocheting for sure. Yes, I should have added crocheting.
So I am interested from any of you, especially the people who have creative hobbies, is where you find that balance. So I feel like even Instagram, everything that we consume makes us feel like if you have a hobby, you have to be good at it. You have to monetize it. You can't just make candles because you love to make candles and you want to give them to your friends for gifts. Like you got to make it a business. You have to monetize your Pinterest where you show your knitting projects or whatever. But the psychology of hobbies is really important for us to have that creative outlet where we can like get into that flow state where you're just totally immersed and you lose track of time and you forget about your worries. And for me, I find that I will listen to an audiobook and do a jigsaw puzzle is where I have some flow state. But, like Enrica, do you bake for fun? And Katie, do you knit for fun? I know you said you never take a break, but how do you balance, the creativity? And Jenny Estridge, are you doing social media on the weekends? Or are you like, I just did social media all day, 9 to 5, and I don't want to see Instagram again till Monday. So how do you guys balance that?
Yeah, I'm not baking at home. That's a negative. I bake all day. I'm not doing it at home. But yes, I don't. Which is, it's okay, because I put my all into my baking at the kitchen. So it's like, that's how I feel about washing dishes in the kitchen, and then I have to wash dishes at home. It's stressful. So I leave the baking for my job, which I love to do. It does relieve stress for me too, but home is just like, no work. I just want to be home.
I can feel that. I understand.
I relate.
For so long, like my husband, a couple other people were trying to talk me into opening like a little gluten-free cafe that's like all gluten-free foods, baked goods, and breakfast brunchy sort of food. And honestly, besides the fact that I couldn't now, I have a disability and there's no way that I would be able to sustain that. But I honestly also just felt like it would take, for me at least, for like for me, it's more of just a hobby. I love doing it for the family. I love doing it for me. I'm not going to eat every single thing that I make, although I love to. But for me, it's just more of that. It's a release. It's fun. It's a hobby. And I totally understand that somebody who does that as their job would feel that way when they come home. They need that separation. So I could see that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also get a great sense of pride by helping people understand that the stuff that my company makes is all made by hands. And I think when people are asking me to expedite orders or questioning like when something will be out, my idea is like, I'm not Amazon. And I think we're a culture that has grown into this model of like everybody wants it and they want it now. And for me, part of what I'm trying to like market the company as is like, we are making decisions that are both we're trying to choose sustainable packaging. We're trying to make products that people like, but are good and okay for the planet. They help us feel good, but they're not essential. And it's like just communicating like what your brand image is. And like then people locally choose to buy into that because they want to support that. That's full circle to me. And that's really important as a small business owner for me, is to continue to grow my brand where I know where I'm buying my materials from, where I know what kind of materials I'm putting on the shelves, and just helping both in part to like educate my customers as well as be responsible as a business owner of what I'm putting on the shelves.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
The whole balance of turning your hobby or your art into your job, I mean, that's a long podcast right there.
And
it is. I mean,
I feel you.
It absolutely changed the way I do all the things that I do and the way I feel about them. And yeah, the idea of, I'm not selling what I make, I'm selling the materials. And so many people who walk into the store find that completely mind-blowing. They're like, well, what? I want to buy this hat. The idea of the samples that are not for sale, it just, it blows people's minds. Sometimes it even like people who work for me are like, why don't we sell these? I'm like, because nobody would pay for it. Basically,
it's interesting though, because just to take a different spin on it, on the one hand, I think it's really important to have that balance and have that boundary between work and your passion as like your home, and have that separation. On the other hand, I think there is something to be said about finding a way to create a career, finding a way to create a livelihood out of your passion, right? As opposed to like Jenny, you came home, you came back from having this career in the city and you're walking through Adams and you're like, this is my happy place. Okay, I'm going to make a career out of this. Or Angela, for you, it was the products that you're making. Enrica, for you, it's baking. Katie, it's the knitting. And Leah, of course, like this is what you do, and the sustainability and all of that. So I just think that's so impressive. And I think that's so important. That's not really communicated enough, especially to like kids graduating high school or kids in college, like really find a way. And I remember hearing this motivational speaker years ago who was talking about his son, and he said like he was a surfer, and he was just like, well, that's great. What are you going to do? Like you can't, very few people make a living out of being a surfer. And the idea was, he's like, well, what, he said, well, that's okay. Like, what can you do to create a career out of that? And sure enough, he opened a surf shop, and then he, franchised, and now he owns this whole big, amazing, a collection of surf shops. So I think that's a really important point though, too. Yes, you have to find the balance, but also I think it's important for us to communicate to younger people. There is a way to do it, to find a way to get your passion, to create a livelihood and career out of your passion, right?
Couldn't agree more. I actually did I went back to my old high school to have that kind of conversation with seniors and, kids in the art department, because had I had known there was a world of art direction and all this other stuff, I think I would have made different choices. But again, the choices got me where I am now, and I'm very happy where I am now. So,
I think it's inspiring to kids. I do the same, Jenny. I've gone to our local high school to just wear the hat of like creative person. And I think they're always refreshed to hear that my path has not been linear. I have too many degrees in studio arts. I'm a creative person. I'm a painter, but like I use that to push this business forward. And I wouldn't have known that like before I had kids that I would be doing this. And
I had an argument. Yeah. I had an argument with my dad about college and just like, because I wanted to go to art school. He was like, no, you're going to be a starving artist, all the things. And, again, and just going through my career and my trajectory, just, the feeling that like, well, why isn't this clicking? And it's like the reason why it wasn't clicking for me at the time was like I do like wearing all these different hats, and that's what Adam's Social allows me to do right now. It is just a social team of me currently, so it's like I have my hands making like everything. I do it. It's like my ideas, my copy, and yeah, there's something about like again, no one. There was, Instagram wasn't a big thing when I was, or, that wasn't, we didn't know what Instagram was going to become when I was in high school or any of this stuff. So it's all brand new. And I think kids just need to hear that, like, you can really forge your own path in the areas you love. So
this is kind of a question for everybody, but I want to start with Leah to hear your answer. But so it's important. Okay, one thing I think that the Hudson Valley is elite at is recognizing the value of small businesses and understanding that it might cost a little bit more. And I also want to acknowledge that that's absolutely a privilege to be able to make that choice and have the time to say it's important to me to source something locally, or I want to prioritize spending my dollars at a Black woman-owned business. So, I could go to Costco and get a $6 quiche, but it's not going to taste like the one that Enrica's going to make, and it's not going to support somebody that I can, see and give her a hug. And I can go get a $5 candle at Target, but it's not going to be like what Angela's pouring. And, one of my favorite things about Adams is all the locally sourced stuff. And then, Katie, we can go order a bunch of fabric from fabric.com or whatever, but it's not the same thing as me coming in and talking to you.
You can't. They're out of business.
Well, there you go. But, getting your advice, coming back and showing you what I made with the materials I bought from you. And so, Leah, I feel like, I think you even had a post about this recently, that sustainability costs a little bit more. And it takes a little bit extra time, right? It's just way easier for me to go, buy the jar of peanut butter and then toss it in the recycling when I'm done. So, kind of how do you position that, and what kind of feedback are you getting on people making the extra effort and the extra expense to choose this more sustainable lifestyle?
Well, it just really comes down to what do you value, what's important to you. So if community is important to you and actually talking to people when you're shopping, then going to a refillery is a great option because you have one-on-one interaction with the person owning the store. If buying locally is important to you, if that's valuable to you, helping out a local artist or maker, then yeah, you're going to have to spend a little more. If eating organic foods that don't have pesticides or maybe from a local farm, if that's important to you, then are you willing to pay a little bit more to have that, for your family and for your body? So, and I think there's so many people that would answer yes, like I value that. That's important to me. And I just think for me personally, like after, I know we talk a lot about like pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, but we need the connection again, like going to a store and talking to people and touching the thing and seeing who made it, where it came from, and just going into a beautiful space and being able to buy food. And, not to knock a chain store, but, you got fluorescent lighting and there's maybe some social interactions that aren't so positive. I would like to go somewhere that's pretty, that smells nice, and people are really nice to each other. So I think I'm
absolutely. And also, Angela, just following up kind of, so, like I said, you don't have the $5 Target candle, but also when I buy something from you, I don't feel guilty because I know that it's supporting a local business. And I also know that you're really mindful about your packaging. And that's something that you've gotten more into over the past year or so. So, you and Leah should obviously be friends, but I'm just interested to see what you've been doing in terms of, prioritizing sustainability in your business processes too.
Yeah, I think sustainability is one of those words that we can all define in our own way. So for my company, sustainability is about making choices that I feel good about. So recently, I have been making a push to remove rigid plastic from my packaging. And replace it with tins. I tend to favor chipboard boxes over gloss laminated boxes. For that reason, I tend to choose paper labels over vinyl labels. But also, I live in Rhinebeck, and I just walk into the village and I go to all the little boutiques in the village and I collect and repurpose their corrugated boxes, and I use those for shipping. I mean, it's just like, I'm all about making things that are pretty, but it's like a box for a candle isn't essential. So when I'm boxing a candle, like I want to make sure it's also going to break down quickly. And so those are just choices that I choose to make. And I'm super small batch, but my idea is that every little bit helps. And so I just choose to package in a way that's responsible, and it feels good to me. It's not perfect. My company isn't perfect, but I do my best to limit the amount of things that are most terrible to me.
That is a super valid point, because on episode 8, our Earth Day episode, we talked to Lauren Broyce from Sustainable Westchester, and we said, maybe people aren't ready to go all in on this more sustainable lifestyle, but what's one thing we can do right now? And she talked about composting and how it's easier than you think it is. And so just like I don't think anybody should ever feel guilty about, self-care and taking rest days, we're not all going to be able to go into Folk Refillery and redo our whole house with all of the products and packaging. So, we shouldn't, so Jenny and my Valley girls, Jenny and I, tend to be perfectionists. So we're like, well, if we can't do it perfectly, then why bother doing it at all? And that's exactly the wrong attitude to take in terms of, whether it's sustainability or supporting local businesses or going into Adams and being like, okay, sure, they have some of the national brands, but I'd rather go to the section where they have the locally sourced stuff instead. You can do a little bit, and that's okay. You don't have to do a wholesale change.
And I think that goes back to your point in terms of like, we actually on that episode, we talked about like, recognizing privilege and being able to, go into whether it's a refillery or a store that sells things that may be more expensive than Target, but they're obviously higher quality, better products. That kind of goes back to that same concept of it doesn't mean you have to get everything. You don't have to restock your entire house. All of your groceries, forgive me, Jenny, but all of your groceries don't have to come from Adams. You can get some things from Hannaford or ShopRite, right? And that's what I do now, even, I'll be honest. You know what I mean? I try to get as much as I can from Adams, and then there are certain things I do still have to get from Hannaford. Like you do what you can, but just because you can't do it all, just because you can't be, as Angela said, you can't be perfect at it, doesn't mean you can't do those little steps, right? And so I think that's really important.
I think sustainability can be scaled too. As we as individuals get more information and acquire more knowledge about things, like we are always making decisions, right? So things can change, and you can scale that sustainability model according to information that you're receiving or just like the way that your growth is happening. Yeah. And I mean, Hannaford also, just to note, has a really amazing local section. So they do a great job of trying to support local, but Adams is also
it's a different whole different thing. Yes, of course.
So Enrica's business is actually the most sustainable of all because trust me, if you buy something from her, you're not going to have anything left over.
That's right.
I love that.
That is so true. And I will say, you go back to candles. I'm going to keep thinking of things for my perfect day at home. Candles. That's another. Anything smelly, whether it's diffusers or candles, something all natural. Because I am very sensitive to artificial scents, but candles will be a big one, and that's something that also was in part why we put this amazing group of women, invited this amazing group of women is not only are you all incredible in your own right and your business is incredible in their own right, but, when you talk about the perfect day at home, I mean, look what we've got right here. You've got baked goods, you've got amazing, home products, you've got the candles, you've got all of those, all of the amazing snacks and charcuterie boards, which there is no charcuterie board like an Adams charcuterie board, I will say. It's really true. Like I said, the crochet, all of the amazing yarn and crocheting, and then of course filling your home with sustainable products and items from Folk Refillery. So we've got the whole package right here.
Yeah, and one more point about sustainability. So Katie, obviously you are making fabric crafts by hand. So when we had our Earth Day episode, we were also talking to Lauren about the repair cafes that Sustainable Westchester and some of the other groups host all around, which it was kind of my first time hearing about it, where people will volunteer and say, hey, I used to be a jeweler. I know how to fix watches and clocks. And if you have an old broken watch or clock, you can go and meet that person and get it fixed. So is there some element of that with Beetle and Fred too, because people can learn how to repair things instead of tossing them and going and buy new stuff?
Absolutely. We do a lot of mending classes. Like we've had this wonderful woman, Rachel, who comes and does sashiko classes, which is a traditional Japanese mending style, which also just happens to look amazing and beautiful. So we've done that. We've done some other just more general mending classes, and it's the kind of thing that we're always on the lookout for. And also just, like making your own stuff so that, it's not made by children somewhere.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
No, that is a very good point. I really like that too. Yeah. Oh, it's so great.
I want to give everybody a chance to have a last word, but I'm going to give Angela the first last word because Jenny Lifer, I don't know if you saw that Tess and James has a candle called Last Word. And do you remember when you were visiting me in Texas and we went to that little speakeasy place and we discovered what a last word is? So it was a place that was making like Prohibition era cocktails, and the bartender said, hey, have you ever heard the last word? And we're like, no. And then we fell in love with it. And I just saw on your website that you have a Last Word candle. So amazing.
Yes, it was with chartreuse, and it was just, I just have to say, because I have to get the last word. It was just, I have to say that it was the best. It was, we were celebrating my 40th birthday, remember? We were at, it was such a cool bar, and we had never heard of anything like this. And I have tried to recreate it. I have chartreuse at home now. It was introduced to chartreuse. I love it.
Yeah, made
by monks in France. Incredible. It's like my new favorite thing. And I haven't quite got the drink down exactly, but I've made many other delicious things with chartreuse. So please tell us about it. The candle.
Okay, so two things. We love cocktails in our house. So I do find when I'm looking for inspiration, it often comes from either naming of cocktails or scent combinations. Also inspired, the combinations of scents are often inspired by recipes. So like the campfire roll-on, for example, very inspired by just like Indian cuisine, like a bright Indian cuisine. Cardamom, clove, and orange to me represents that. So, but then the other thing is we're big Eagles fans here in my house. And so when the Eagles were in the Super Bowl, our cocktail of choice was the Last Word because it's green. And we were hoping to win the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Go Birds.
That didn't work out, but that's where Go Birds. That's where the candle was. That's where the inspiration came from.
That's incredible. I love that.
That's a great story. Okay, that's really funny. I love that. I love that. Well, so speaking of last word, is there anything else anybody wants to share in terms of having, helping somebody else set up their perfect days at home, or anything else that you wanted to share?
Real quick, I just wanted to say, it is very rare for like, like as I've gotten to know my team, like we all do our like big grocery shopping elsewhere. I will say like, it's not like, but yeah, when we want to get that special or like that good quality item, produce, I'm sure all of you have tried an Adams, like just produce or whatever it is, bakery, going to the cheese and just having that interaction with our staff. Our staff is just so knowledgeable. Like if you were looking for something to pair with a cheese, they're amazing. The bakery team, we're becoming good friends. Have an Adams cheesecake to like add, like, I cannot stress how good that is. And, even like, we used to do fudge of the month, so I would get like a whole bunch of fudge. It's addicting. I'm kind of
good.
So good. And yeah, I guess just to kind of tie a bow on like, things that I would like to like put out for Adams moving forward and things like that. We are looking to make content that talks about like food waste and how, you can prolong, certain items, because like that was my big thing. I buy a bag of spinach and whoops, I forgot about my spinach, and now it's just, we've all been there.
It's always the spinach, and then it liquefies and smells terrible.
And it's like, oh no, and it's like, why do I even try? And I'm like, no, I'm gonna beat that toxic thinking. I'm capable of change, and I think other people in the Hudson Valley are too. They just need to be exposed to it. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
I see another episode coming out about that. Yes. That's what I see.
The only other point I will say about Adams is, and again, not sponsored, but what I love about Adams is I see so many of the posts that you put out on social media about people who have literally made it their whole career and how dedicated Adams is to promoting people from within. And you'll have somebody who started out as, a cashier, and then they started becoming the assistant cheese manager, and now they're the specialty foods manager. And I think that just speaks so highly of the kind of business it is that they foster that kind of development among employees, and people are just staying there for decades. So
they are.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that could truly be another episode. It's unheard of in my again in my career path. I've had jobs where people maybe at max stay 5 years, maybe. But like there's families that work at Adams.
And that goes back to the original Adams who started the business, and that was their goal. That was really what they were looking to do. So they're definitely succeeding.
I work with Pat and Steve every day.
Yeah,
they're
Steve,
there, their kid, it's seriously still. So like, it feels like a family, and that's it. That's really it. It's just a great place. I love providing the content for such a truly amazing not small brand, but you know what I mean, like a local brand.
Local brand.
Yeah.
And I will say, we're growing the Valley Girls family right here. Nothing like Adams, but I'm going to let you all go unless anybody else has anything else to add. But somebody else earlier asked, well, what got us into doing this podcast? And one of the things that I will say is this right here, right? So like we knew that we wanted to do a podcast. This is something that Jen and I wanted to do together. It was just a fun project, while she had the downtime and I had some time. I'm not currently working, and we just said, let's do this. It'll eventually turn into something, and we can make something from it. But even if not, let's do this. But one of the things we really decided was when we were coming up with different topics was the Hudson Valley. So yes, there are tons of things to do in the Hudson Valley and see, and there's plenty of travel blogs and people who post, cool, fun things to do in the Hudson Valley. So we started sort of with that angle, but then it very quickly after recording our first episode, or even before that, we realized it's more than that. It's more than what there is to do. It's more than the businesses. It's more than what there is to see or just the historical sites. It's the people of the Hudson Valley. It's the conversations of the Hudson Valley. It's the stories. And that's why I, get cheesy for a minute, but that's why we actually say we're telling the Hudson Valley story one episode at a time, because we found that as much as the Hudson Valley does have this huge wealth of things to do, it's really because of the people in the Hudson Valley, and we're able to have these amazing conversations. So we're just loving it, and this is absolutely what we want to continue to do is open up conversations and connect people, not just us. And yes, we made you all come on here so you can all be our friends now, but and also connect you all with each other too. But we just love hearing from you all, and That's what it's all about, is just connecting. So thank you all so much. Does anybody else have anything to share
I
before
need
we
to say
close?
this, Katie, I love your hair. I know this is a podcast.
It is beautiful.
It's fantastic.
Rainbow, and I'm obsessed. So.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Kendra at Magpie Studios in Newburgh I've been going to her
Love
for
it.
12 years and she's a genius.
Yeah.
So, amazing.
Love it.
Well,
Love
thank you
it.
all so much for coming on and sharing with us. And I hope that you will have connections with each other and we can all keep,
Yes.
the rising tide lifts all boats. So I love to see it. And Enrica, thank you especially for being the wind beneath our wings.
Yay! Thanks for being our inspiration, our muse. We love you.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you all. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you to all our listeners. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to help support the Valley Girls, please follow our podcast from our show page on whichever platform you listen from. Leave a rating and review, and please spread the word and share our podcast with others. We really appreciate your support. To stay up to date with the Valley Girls and for more content, you can find us at valleygirlspodcast.com, and you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Links to all our social media accounts are in the show notes. And you can also connect to them through our homepage at valleygirlspodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now. Bye-bye. The music for this episode is by Robert Burke Warren, entitled Painting a Vast Blue Sky, and can be found on his album Redheaded Friend, available on iTunes and Spotify, and at the link in the show notes.